The hunting season had officially begun, and by the sacred moons of Thraxia we were excited. My name is Karvok, and I serve as the lead tracker for the Galactic Hunting Syndicate. For 3 centuries we had been the apex predators of the galaxy, collecting trophies from every corner of known space. Our ship, the Crimson Fang, housed the finest collection of specimens this side of the Andromeda spiral. Target acquired. Bellowed Grax, our weapons specialist, his forearms dancing across the targeting console with practiced precision. 3rd planet from the star, lots of water, oxygen atmosphere, and get this. He paused for dramatic effect, his mandibles clicking with amusement. The dominant species calls themselves humans. I couldn't help but laugh. Humans. What kind of ridiculous name was that? In all my years of hunting, I had never encountered such an absurd designation for a species. The name alone suggested weakness, some sort of soft, defenseless creature that probably spent its days grazing in fields like the fluff beasts of Zephyr Prime. Preliminary scans show bipedal movement, no natural armor, no claws, no fangs, reported Vex, our scanner operator. Her 6 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed the data. Average height approximately 6 feet, primitive technology, and... She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. They appear to be completely hairless. The entire bridge erupted in laughter. Hairless prey. How pathetic could they be? Even the most docile creatures in the galaxy had some form of natural protection. These humans seemed to be nature's cosmic joke. Sir, interrupted Zara, our communications officer, we're receiving multiple signals from the planet. They seem to have basic radio technology and something called the Internet. The what now? I asked, wiping tears of laughter from my compound eyes. It appears to be some sort of primitive information-sharing network. They use it to share pictures of small furry animals and argue about trivial matters. Oh, this was too good to be true. Not only were these humans physically pathetic, but they were mentally occupied with the most mundane activities imaginable. This hunt would be over before lunch. All right, crew, I announced, settling into my command chair. Standard hunting protocol. We'll start with the usual intimidation tactics. Drop a few ships into their atmosphere, maybe abduct some of their leaders. Once they're properly terrified, we'll begin the harvest. The ship's engines hummed to life as we entered the Sol system. That's what they called their little star system, apparently. How quaint. The 3rd planet, Earth, hung before us like a blue marble, completely oblivious to the doom approaching from the stars. Vex, give me a detailed analysis of their defensive capabilities, I ordered. Sir, they possess what they call nuclear weapons, but they're crude devices that require massive delivery systems. Their military consists of armies that move on foot and in wheeled vehicles. They have flying machines, but nothing capable of reaching space in any meaningful capacity. And their space program is practically non-existent. They've managed to put a few tiny structures in orbit around their planet, but that's about it. Sir, with all due respect, this isn't even going to be a hunt. It's going to be a harvest. I nodded approvingly. Perfect. The Galactic Hunting Syndicate prided itself on efficiency, and this assignment would set new records for speed and ease of completion. Grax, prepare the Terra ships. Let's give these humans a proper welcome to the galaxy. 3 sleek vessels detached from the Crimson Fang, each designed specifically for psychological warfare. They were equipped with holographic projectors, sound amplifiers, and atmospheric processors capable of creating the most horrifying displays imaginable. The plan was simple: scare the humans into submission, then begin the collection process. As our ships entered Earth's atmosphere, I couldn't help but admire the planet's natural beauty. Vast oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling through the sky. It was almost a shame that such a lovely world was inhabited by such unremarkable creatures. Sir, we're picking up massive communication activity from the planet's surface, Zara reported. They seem to be coordinating something. Coordinating what? A surrender ceremony? I laughed. Put it on the main screen. Let's see how these humans react to their first contact with superior alien intelligence. The view screen flickered to life, displaying various human settlements. Large cities filled with rectangular structures, smaller communities scattered across the landscape, and everywhere the tiny figures of humans scurrying about like insects. Beginning intimidation sequence, Grax announced. Activating holographic projectors now. Massive images of our most fearsome warriors appeared above human cities. Towering projections of Thraxian battle lords, their razor-sharp claws gleaming in the sunlight, their roars echoing across the landscape. The psychological impact should have been immediate and devastating. Instead, something unexpected happened. "Sir," Vex said, her voice uncertain, "they're pointing devices at our projections." "What kind of devices?" "I'm not sure. Small, rectangular objects. They're holding them up and wait, they're taking pictures." I blinked my compound eyes in confusion. "Pictures? Of our terror projections?" "It gets worse, sir. They're sharing these pictures on their internet thing. And they're laughing." "Laughing?" "Yes, sir, they've created what they call memes. Apparently, our fearsome Thraxian warriors remind them of something called a house cat." The bridge fell silent. A house cat? What in the name of the void was a house cat? "Zara, access their internet. Show me these house cats." The screen filled with images of small, furry creatures with pointed ears and whiskers. They did, admittedly, bear a slight resemblance to Thraxian facial features, but the comparison was insulting beyond measure. "Sir, there's more. They've started creating humorous captions for our warriors. This one says, 'Alien invasion, but make it cute.' And this one, oh no, this one says, 'When you're trying to conquer Earth, but you're actually just a space kitty.'" I felt my 3 hearts skip a beat. This was not going according to plan. The humans were supposed to be cowering in terror, not turning our carefully crafted intimidation display into entertainment. Grax, increase the intensity. Full terror mode. I want these humans to understand exactly what they're dealing with. Activating maximum intimidation protocols. The projections grew larger, more menacing. Our warriors began demonstrating their combat prowess, slashing through the air with deadly precision. Surely this would break through their strange sense of humor. "Sir, they're still taking pictures. And now they're editing the images. They've added colorful backgrounds and sparkles to our warriors. One human has created something called a disco alien using our most feared battle commander." My mandibles ground together in frustration. How could a species be so utterly immune to fear? Were they completely lacking in survival instincts? Scan their biological responses. Are they actually unafraid, or are they hiding their terror? "Sir, the scans show elevated heart rates, increased breathing, heightened neural activity, but it's not fear. It's excitement?" "Excitement?" "Yes, sir. They appear to be genuinely enjoying this experience. Their stress hormones are elevated, but in a positive way. It's similar to what we observe in species during recreational activities." I slumped in my command chair, utterly bewildered. In 3 centuries of hunting, I had never encountered anything like this. Every species in the galaxy had reacted predictably to our intimidation tactics. Fear, panic, desperate attempts at negotiation or escape. But never had a species turned our psychological warfare into a form of entertainment. "Sir, incoming transmission from the planet's surface," Zara announced. They're trying to communicate with us." "Put it through." A human face appeared on the screen. It was smaller than I had expected, with peculiar patches of hair above the eyes and on the top of the head. The creature's mouth was curved upward in what I would later learn was called a smile. "Greetings, space visitors," the human said in a cheerful tone. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Jake Morrison, spokesperson for the United Nations. We've been expecting you." "Expecting us?" How could they have been expecting us? We had used every stealth technology known to the galaxy. "You have been expecting us?" I replied, my voice transmitted through our universal translator. Oh, absolutely. We've been preparing for first contact for decades. We have welcome committees ready, cultural exchange programs prepared, and we've even set up gift shops selling "I was abducted by aliens" t-shirts. The humans are very excited to meet you. Gift shops. T-shirts? What sort of madness was this? Human Jake Morrison, I said, trying to regain my composure, you do not understand the situation. We are not here for cultural exchange. We are the Galactic Hunting Syndicate, and we have come to claim your species as trophies. The human's smile grew wider. Oh, that's fantastic. A hunting expedition. We love hunting here on Earth. What's your preferred method? Bows and arrows? Rifles? Persistence hunting. We've got experts in every technique. You love hunting? Love it. Some of our greatest human achievements have come from hunting. We've been perfecting the art for thousands of years. Tell you what, why don't you come down to the surface? We'll show you around, introduce you to some of our hunters. I think you'll be impressed. I looked around the bridge at my confused crew. This was not how hunting expeditions were supposed to proceed. The prey was supposed to run, not invite the predators over for a friendly chat. Grax, what's your assessment? Sir, I'm completely lost. This is like nothing in our tactical manuals. Should we accept their invitation? Vex, are you detecting any weapon signatures? Hidden defenses? Negative, sir. Just the basic military installations we already catalogued. Nothing that could threaten the Crimson Fang. I considered our options. We could simply begin the harvest from orbit, but that would violate the Syndicate's sporting code. True hunters always gave their prey a chance, however slim. And these humans seemed so confident, so eager to meet us. Perhaps it would be amusing to see their primitive hunting techniques before we demonstrated our superiority. Very well, Jake Morrison. We accept your invitation. Prepare a landing site for our shuttles. Excellent. We'll set up at the Colorado Springs facility. Fair warning, though, you might want to bring your A-game. Our hunters don't mess around. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sir, Zara said quietly, are we really going to land on the planet? Why not? I replied, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and confidence. They're just humans. How dangerous could they possibly be? As we prepared our landing shuttles, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about this hunt. The humans' reaction had been so unexpected, so contrary to everything we knew about prey behavior. But we were the Galactic Hunting Syndicate. We had conquered worlds, enslaved civilizations, and collected trophies from the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. What could possibly go wrong? The shuttles launched from the Crimson Fang, carrying myself and 20 of our finest hunters toward the surface of Earth. As we descended through the atmosphere, I watched the landscape rush past through the viewport. Mountains, forests, rivers, and cities spread out below us like a tactical map. Sir, incoming message from the human Jake Morrison, Zara announced through the shuttle's communication system. Put it through. Just wanted to let you know we've got quite a reception committee waiting for you. Representatives from all branches of our military, plus some of our most experienced hunters. Oh, and fair warning. Some of our people have been in the mountains for weeks preparing for hunting season. Well, let's just say they're very dedicated to their craft. Hunting season? Oh yeah, it's that time of year. Deer, elk, bear, mountain lions, our hunters are out in force. Hope you don't mind the company. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something in the human's tone suggested there was more to this than simple animal hunting. But surely primitive humans couldn't pose a threat to advanced alien hunters. Could they? Could they? The shuttle touched down at the coordinates provided by the humans. As the doors opened, I stepped out onto the surface of Earth, breathing the planet's atmosphere for the first time. It was pleasant. Clean, with a slight scent of vegetation and something else I couldn't identify. A group of humans waited for us at the landing site. They were smaller than I had expected, but there was something in their posture, their eyes, that suggested they were far from defenseless. They wore various types of clothing, from formal military uniforms to casual outdoor gear, and many carried long, metallic objects that I assumed were their primitive weapons. "Welcome to Earth." Jake Morrison stepped forward, extending his hand in what I would later learn was a gesture of greeting. "I hope you had a pleasant flight, ready to see what human hunting is all about." I looked at the assembled humans, then at my fellow hunters, then back at the humans. For the first time in my 3 centuries of hunting, I began to wonder if we had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late to turn back now. The hunt was about to begin. The first thing I noticed about the humans up close was their eyes. Not the color or shape, but the way they looked at us. There was no fear, no awe, no desperate pleading for mercy. Instead, there was something that made my exoskeleton tingle with unease. They were studying us. Calculating, measuring. So Jake Morrison said, clapping his hands together, "Shall we start with the tour? We've got some really interesting demonstrations planned for you." "Demonstrations?" I asked, my translator struggling with the casual tone. "Oh yes, we want to show you proper human hunting techniques. After all, you've come such a long way. The least we can do is give you a proper welcome." He gestured to a woman in military uniform. "This is Colonel Sarah Martinez, our military liaison. She'll be coordinating today's activities." The colonel stepped forward, and I immediately noticed something different about her posture. Where Jake Morrison seemed friendly and welcoming, this human moved with the fluid grace of a predator. Her eyes swept over my hunting party with professional assessment. "Gentlemen," she said, addressing my crew, "we've prepared several stations to showcase human hunting capabilities. We thought you might find our methods educational." "How thoughtful," I replied, though something in her tone suggested this education might be more than we bargained for. "Lead the way." We followed the humans across the landing area toward a series of structures that had been erected overnight. The speed of their construction was impressive, but I reminded myself that even industrious insects could build quickly when motivated. "First stop," Colonel Martinez announced, "precision shooting demonstration." We approached a cleared area where several humans stood behind a line marked on the ground. In the distance, I could see small circular targets mounted on poles. The humans held their primitive projectile weapons with casual confidence. "Our marksman today is Sergeant Lisa Park," the colonel explained. "She holds several records in her field." A compact human female stepped forward, raising her weapon to her shoulder. The distance to the targets appeared to be several hundred meters, impressive for a primitive species, but hardly challenging for advanced hunters. "Sergeant Park will demonstrate accuracy at various ranges," Jake Morrison explained, starting with the 500-meter targets. 500 meters? I converted the measurement in my head. That was nearly half a kilometer. Surely they were joking. The human female took a deep breath, held it, and squeezed the trigger. The sound was sharp and sudden, making several of my hunters flinch. A moment later, one of the distant targets shattered. "Lucky shot," muttered Grax. 9 more targets at the same range, the colonel said calmly. Bang. Each shot was followed by the destruction of another target. The humans' movements were mechanical, precise, almost robotic in their consistency. "Moving targets now," Jake Morrison announced cheerfully. Small disc-shaped objects were launched into the air at incredible speeds. The human female tracked them smoothly, her weapon swinging in fluid arcs. Every shot found its mark, turning the flying discs into fragments. "Impressive," I admitted grudgingly, "but surely this is your finest marksman." "What about average human capabilities?" "Oh, Lisa's good," the colonel replied, "but she's not even in our top 10. Would you like to see some of our recreational hunters?" Before I could respond, a new group of humans approached. These weren't military personnel. They wore casual clothing and carried various types of weapons. What struck me immediately was their casual confidence. "This is Tom Bradley," Jake Morrison said, indicating a middle-aged human with graying hair. "He's a weekend hunter, works in accounting during the week." "An accountant?" A numbers keeper was going to demonstrate hunting prowess. Tom Bradley raised his weapon, aimed at a target I could barely see with my enhanced vision, and fired. The target exploded. "Nice shot, Tom," called out another human. "But can you do it left-handed?" The accountant switched his weapon to his other hand and repeated the performance without apparent difficulty. "Ambidextrous shooting," Colonel Martinez explained. "Many of our hunters develop the skill for tactical flexibility." I felt a cold realization beginning to creep through my consciousness. These weren't just lucky shots or exceptional individuals. This was normal human capability. "Next demonstration," Jake Morrison announced. "Tracking and stalking." We moved to a wooded area where the humans had prepared another display. A man in camouflage clothing stood at the edge of the forest. "This is Mike Thompson," the colonel said. "He'll demonstrate human stealth capabilities." Mike Thompson nodded to us, then stepped into the forest and vanished. Not with any technological aid, not with cloaking devices or energy shields. He simply disappeared. One moment he was there, the next he was gone. "Where did he go?" Vex whispered. "He's still there," Jake Morrison said cheerfully. "Mike, why don't you show them?" A voice came from directly behind us. "I'm right here." We spun around to find the human standing 3 meters away, somehow having circled behind our entire group without making a sound. "Humans are natural ambush predators," Colonel Martinez explained. "We've been perfecting stealth techniques for thousands of years. Would you like to see more?" Before I could answer, Mike Thompson had vanished again. This time I kept my sensors focused on the area where he had been standing. Nothing, no heat signature, no movement, no sound. "Mike hunts deer with a bow," Jake Morrison mentioned casually, "has to get within 30 meters of his prey without being detected. Deer have excellent hearing and smell, so it requires considerable skill." 30 meters? I could barely detect this human from 3 meters away, and he was saying they regularly got 10 times closer to their prey. "How?" I asked. "Practice," came Mike Thompson's voice from somewhere in the trees. "Lots and lots of practice." "Next demonstration," the colonel announced. "Endurance hunting." We moved to another area where a lone human stood stretching her legs. She was lean, athletic, with the kind of build that suggested speed and stamina. "This is Rachel Kim," Jake Morrison said. "She's going to demonstrate persistence hunting." "Persistence hunting?" I asked. "It's one of our oldest techniques," the colonel explained. "Humans can run for hours without stopping. We don't catch our prey by being faster than them. We catch them by never giving up." "How long can humans run?" I asked, though I was beginning to suspect the answer would be unsettling. "Rachel here completed a 100-mile race last month," Jake Morrison said proudly. "Took her about 20 hours. 100 miles? 20 hours? I did the mental calculation. That was continuous movement for nearly a full-day cycle. My own species could sprint at incredible speeds, but for minutes at most. Of course, that was for fun," the colonel added. "In actual hunting situations, humans can track prey for days if necessary." "Days?" "Oh yes, there are documented cases of human hunters following wounded animals for weeks. We don't give up easily." I was beginning to understand that this was more than just a demonstration. It was a warning. "Shall we move on to the final station?" Jake Morrison asked. "I think you'll find this one particularly interesting." We were led to a large open area where several humans waited with various implements. Some held the projectile weapons we had seen earlier, others carried long poles with sharp points, and a few had curved pieces of wood connected by strings. "Combat demonstration," Colonel Martinez announced. We thought you might like to see how humans handle multiple threats. Multiple threats? Well, you mentioned you were hunters. We assumed you might be interested in our defensive capabilities. Defensive capabilities? I had a sinking feeling that we were about to learn something we didn't want to know. Target scenario, the colonel called out. Hostile contact, multiple hostiles, various ranges. The humans spread out across the field with practiced efficiency. Their movements were coordinated, purposeful. They had clearly done this many times before. Begin simulation. What followed was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. The humans moved like a single organism, each individual covering specific areas while maintaining communication with the others. Their weapons fired in controlled bursts, each shot carefully aimed and effective. But it was their coordination that truly impressed me. They anticipated each other's movements, provided covering fire, and adapted their tactics in real time as the scenario progressed. How long do they train for this? I asked. Military personnel train for years, the colonel replied. But basic hunting and shooting skills are taught to children. Most humans learn to use weapons before they're teenagers. Children? They trained their offspring in weapons usage? It's a cultural tradition, Jake Morrison explained. Hunting, fishing, camping, survival skills. We pass them down through generations. Every human knows these skills. Not every human, but a significant percentage. We have over 300 million registered hunters in this country alone. 300 million? On a single continent. Sir, Grax whispered urgently, we need to talk. Privately. I gestured for my hunting party to gather around me, away from the humans. This is not what we expected, Vex said quietly. These humans are not defenseless prey. They're predators. Apex predators, Grax corrected. Did you see how they moved? How they coordinated? This isn't just hunting ability. This is military training applied to hunting. And they have 300 million of them, Zara added, in one region of their planet. I looked back at the humans who were patiently waiting for our conference to end. They weren't showing off or demonstrating superiority, but they were simply existing. This was their normal capability level. Sir, Vex continued, I've been analyzing their technology. Their weapons are primitive by our standards, but they're incredibly effective. And they have manufacturing capabilities that could produce millions of these weapons quickly. How many humans are on this planet total? I asked. Approximately 8 billion, Vex replied. And they're spread across all continents, in various climates and terrains. 8 billion potential hunters. 8 billion creatures that could track, stalk and kill with primitive but effective weapons. 8 billion beings that could run for hours, hide in plain sight, and coordinate their attacks with deadly precision. Gentlemen, Jake Morrison called out, is everything all right? I turned back to the humans, trying to maintain my composure. Everything is fine. We were just discussing your impressive demonstrations. Oh, we're just getting started, the colonel said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Would you like to see our heavy weapons capabilities? Or perhaps our air support demonstrations? Heavy weapons? I asked weakly. Sure, we've got everything from rocket launchers to artillery pieces, and our pilots are eager to show off their skills. We could arrange some aerial demonstrations if you're interested. That won't be necessary, I said quickly. Are you sure? We also have some special forces units that specialize in hunting dangerous prey. They've been practicing with alien-specific scenarios. Alien-specific scenarios? They had been preparing for us? How long have you been expecting us? I asked. Oh, we've been watching your ship since you entered the solar system, Jake Morrison said casually. Nice vessel, by the way. We've been analyzing its capabilities. You've been watching us? Of course. We have telescopes, radar systems, satellites, but we've been tracking your approach for weeks. Weeks? We had been detected weeks ago. In fact, the colonel added, we've been preparing various contingency plans. Just in case you turned out to be hostile. Contingency plans? Standard procedure. When unknown aliens approach Earth, we like to be ready for any possibility. I felt my heart's racing. What kind of contingency plans? Jake Morrison and Colonel Martinez exchanged glances. Well, Jake Morrison said slowly, let's just say that if you had come here with hostile intentions, you would have discovered that humans are very good at hunting things that hunt them. We've been the dominant predators on this planet for thousands of years, the Colonel added. We didn't get to the top of the food chain by being easy prey. The full reality of our situation was beginning to dawn on me. We hadn't come to hunt defenseless creatures. We had walked into the territory of apex predators who had been watching us, studying us, and preparing for our arrival. Perhaps, I said carefully, we should return to our ship and reconsider our approach. Oh, but you just got here, Jake Morrison protested. We haven't even shown you our best stuff yet. Tom, why don't you tell them about the hunting trip you took to Alaska? The accountant stepped forward with enthusiasm. Sure. Last year I tracked a grizzly bear through 50 miles of wilderness. Took me 3 days, but I got him. Beautiful animal, weighed about 800 pounds. And Lisa, the Colonel added, tell them about your mountain lion hunt. Oh, that was exciting, the female marksman said. Tracked it for a week through the Rocky Mountains. Had to use thermal imaging and scent tracking. Nearly got me twice, but I managed to take it down with a single shot at 400 yards. In a blizzard, Tom Bradley added helpfully. Right, in a blizzard. Visibility was maybe 20 yards, but I could hear it moving through the snow. I stared at these humans, these creatures who casually discussed hunting massive predators through extreme terrain in horrible weather conditions. And they spoke of it as recreation, as fun. Grax, I whispered, how many humans are surrounding us right now? My weapons specialist activated his sensors discreetly. His face went pale. Sir, there are approximately 200 humans positioned around this facility, all armed, all in concealed positions. 200? They're not threatening us, he added quickly, but they're definitely watching. I looked around the area with new eyes. What I had taken for empty landscape was actually filled with hidden humans, watching, waiting, ready. Jake Morrison, I said, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. We may have given you the wrong impression about our intentions. Oh? He raised his eyebrows. What impression was that? We may have suggested that we came here to hunt your species. Yes, you did mention that. Well, upon reflection, we realized that this might have been overly ambitious. Overly ambitious? Yes, perhaps we should consider a different approach to our relationship. Colonel Martinez stepped forward. What kind of approach did you have in mind? Cultural exchange, I suggested hopefully. Scientific cooperation. Tourism? Tourism could work, Jake Morrison said thoughtfully. We do have some beautiful national parks, though you'd need to follow all the safety regulations. Safety regulations? Oh yes, we have rules about feeding the wildlife, staying on designated trails, proper food storage to avoid attracting bears. Basic survival stuff. Bears. Right. I had forgotten that this planet was inhabited by multiple species of large predators, and the humans lived alongside them as a matter of course. Perhaps, I said, we should discuss this further on our ship. In orbit. Sure. Jake Morrison said cheerfully. But before you go, we've prepared a little farewell gift. He gestured to a group of humans who approached carrying a large wrapped package. What is it? I asked suspiciously. Open it and see. With trembling claws, I unwrapped the package. Inside was a collection of what appeared to be human hunting implements, along with a book titled The Complete Guide to Earth Hunting, a beginner's manual. We thought you might want to learn some of our techniques, the Colonel explained. For future reference. I opened the book to a random page. The chapter title read, Advanced Ambush Techniques for Large Game. The accompanying illustrations showed humans in various concealment positions, weapons ready, eyes focused with predatory intent. This is very thoughtful, I managed. There's also a DVD collection, Jake Morrison added. Some of our best hunting documentaries. You'll particularly enjoy the one about persistence hunting. Shows a human chasing an antelope for 8 hours straight until it collapses from exhaustion. 8 hours? Great technique. Works on just about anything that runs. I closed the book and looked at the assembled humans. They were smiling, but there was something in their eyes that reminded me of the apex predators from my homeworld. The ones that smiled just before they struck. Well, I said, this has been educational. Thank you for your hospitality. Our pleasure. Jake Morrison replied, safe travels. And remember, if you ever want to come back for a real hunt, just let us know. We'll be ready. As we walked back to our shuttles, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being escorted. Not threatened, but definitely guided. The humans maintained their friendly demeanor, but I noticed that we were never left alone, never allowed to wander off the designated path. Sir, Vex whispered, I'm detecting weapon signatures all around us. They're not aimed at us, but they're definitely present. How many? Hundreds. Maybe thousands. They're everywhere. And they're all just watching? Yes, sir. Waiting. We reached our shuttles and began boarding. As I stepped into the craft, Jake Morrison called out one final time. Oh, and Karvok. That's your name, right? Tell your friends in the Galactic Hunting Syndicate that Earth is always open for tourism. But if they come here looking for prey, he smiled, and for the first time I saw the predator behind the friendly facade. Well, let's just say they might find more than they bargained for. The shuttle doors closed, and we lifted off from the surface of Earth. As we climbed toward orbit, I stared down at the blue planet below. From space it looked so peaceful, so innocent. But I knew better now. Sir, Grax said quietly, what do we report to the Syndicate? I thought about the question for a long moment. How do you explain to the galaxy's most feared hunters that you've discovered a species that makes you look like prey? We tell them the truth, I said finally. Earth is off limits. Off limits. Yes, we classify it as a protected preserve. No hunting allowed. But sir, the Syndicate will want to know why. I looked at my crew, these brave warriors who had faced down the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. They were all staring at me with the same expression I felt on my own face. Not fear exactly, but something close to it. Respect. Caution. The recognition that we had encountered something beyond our capabilities. We tell them, I said, that the humans are already being hunted by themselves, and they're doing a much better job of it than we ever could. As the Crimson Fang's engines engaged and we began our journey away from the Sol system, I took one last look at Earth. Somewhere down there, 8 billion predators were going about their daily lives, probably already planning their next hunt. And I finally understood why they had been so eager to meet us. We weren't the hunters in this scenario. We were the ones being studied, the ones being evaluated, the ones being hunted. The humans had let us go this time, but I had the distinct impression that if we had posed a real threat, if we had actually tried to harm them, we would have discovered just how effective human hunting techniques could be when applied to alien prey. As we left the solar system behind, I made a mental note to update our species database. Next to humans, I would add a single word, avoid. Because some prey, it turns out, hunt back, and they're very, very good at it.